We took that moment of silence and dark screen to honor those folks who have lost their lives just trying to attend school in our schools across the nation this year. May God bless their families. I'm Dr. William Wright, Jr., and I am pleased and honored to be coming to you with this special Founders Edition of the Wright Experience. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit from my perspective about leadership, and I'll talk a little bit about my leadership journey as I am about to embark, believe it or not, into my 25th year as a full-time public school educator and my 10th year serving as a school superintendent. I just took today to kind of reflect on that. Those realities are facing me, and I'm absolutely excited about continuing to serve children throughout this great nation. And so as I move forward, we're going to take tonight to reflect and give you some unique perspectives from my point of view on leadership and where we need to be focused in the future. A little bit about my history for those of you who do not know this. I started out as a business teacher in 1998, which, like I said, this is going to be my 25th year coming up. I started in Rocky Mount, North Carolina as a business teacher in Edwards Junior High School, which at that time served 8th and 9th graders. Prior to that, I was a substitute teacher and worked for about 6 years. And my story is somewhat unique. I'm the son of an educator. My mother worked in public schools in the state of Michigan and North Carolina for about 35 years total. And my dad drove Trailways bus for 27 years, had a very good career, did very well and retired. And right at the time that both of them retired from their professions, I began to work in public school education. And that career, of course, has served me well over the past 25 years or so. And so after starting at Edwards Junior High in Rocky Mount, I matriculated to Red Oak Middle School, my first assistant principalship, both in Nash County, North Carolina. Spent some time in Edgecombe County Schools as a assistant principal, and then ultimately my first principalship was assumed there at South Edgecombe Middle School, where I served for 3 years. And then I matriculated to Wake County Schools as an assistant principal briefly because of a need to satisfy some family obligations at that time. And then I had the pleasure of serving as principal of Western Harnett High School in Harnett County Schools for 3 years. Matriculated to assistant superintendent in Harnett County Schools for 2 years from 2011 until 2013. And then in 2013, I assumed my first superintendency in McCormick County Schools in South Carolina, where I served from 2013 until December of 2015, at which time I moved to my current post as superintendent of Hereford County Schools, December 1st of 2015 until the present time. And fortunately, I have been selected unanimously by the Sumter School District Board of Education, Board of Trustees, actually, to assume that role as superintendent of schools beginning July 1st, 2022. So as I enter my 10th year as a superintendent and 25th as a public school educator, I have a new challenge awaiting me that I'm absolutely ecstatic about having the opportunity to begin. I'm looking forward to serving the 3,000 employees and just about 15,000 students in that school district in those 24 schools for many years to come. I'm looking forward to us unifying and doing what's best for those children in that district for many years to come. I'm excited about the future of public schools, as well as the future of our individual school district. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that I think have helped me in my career during the year. I've got some questions that we'll kind of go down and answer You, the viewers, have submitted these questions, and for that, I'm extremely grateful. And then we'll talk a little bit about the show and its future, and we'll go from there. So first of all, right off the bat, I got a question about what exactly are the responsibilities of a superintendent, and how have you managed to beat the odds, is the way the question was written. I don't know that I necessarily look at that, but a couple of facts. First of all, in the district that I'm currently serving, I've been fortunate enough to serve the students and staff of Hertford County, North Carolina for 6.5 years. And that makes me the longest tenured superintendent in this district in well over 30 years. So I'm proud of that fact, and celebrate that fact that the Board of Education and the citizens of Hertford County have allowed me to serve that district this long. And I think the key to good leadership in any profession, certainly in school districts, is the passion to serve the community. That is absolutely the key element to the work that we do. We serve students on a daily basis at the superintendent level, but we also have a greater responsibility to be a responsible citizen in the community and to understand the needs of the community moving forward. Hertford County, North Carolina is absolutely a beautiful community. We have many wonderful people here who just want to see their school district be successful. And so we've always tried to listen to those folks and be involved and be a part of the community, and make trips to Walmart and all the things that you have to do to make sure that people know that you're an active part of the community. Everywhere I go now in our county, people know who I am, and they're comfortable coming up to me and talking to me about the school district and the things that they would like to see improved. And we don't take those things for granted. We use those to inform decision-making and move forward. So as leaders, we always have to make sure that we, what I call, and I've always called, that we immerse ourselves in the community that we're serving. And once we do that, we can't just be a part of the community, but we have to participate in making the community better. And that's a sign of a good leader and certainly a good superintendent. And so as I'm departing this community, at least in this role, not always in presence, but in this role, I believe that I have demonstrated the way that a superintendent should immerse himself in the community and then become an active part of providing solutions. I believe also that it is our direct responsibility to make sure that our work on a daily basis is value added. As a leader, you want to make sure that the work that you're doing, the decisions that you're making, the input that you're giving to those who are helping you serve and lead is value added. If you can't add value to the work that you're doing, you probably should do something else. And so for the last 6.5 years here and the 2.5 years prior to that I served in McCormick County, that's been my daily mission, to make sure that the work that I did, the commitment that I made, the decisions that I made were value added. And as I embark on this new journey, we're going to continue to provide value added leadership to the Sumter School District each and every day. So I was asked also what my proudest moments have been as a leader. And so I could talk about that to ad nauseum probably, but if I started all the way back to my time as a teacher, for instance, at Edwards Junior High, 8th and 9th grade students. At that time, I was coming fresh out of working in manufacturing. And I don't really know that I knew much about how to be a teacher other than my experience as a substitute teacher on my off days. But it's amazing now to look at some of the folks who have matriculated out of that time with me. And I'm sure that the English teacher and the science teacher and the math teacher had just as much to do with these folks' success as I do. But I can point to students who I taught as an 8th and 9th grade business education teacher who are now, for instance, professors at major universities, who lead departments at major universities. I have others that were entrepreneurs. I have others that have assumed the profession of education, and say that I might have had a small impact on that. It's amazing. Teaching is such a rewarding profession in that you see the outcome of people being successful. And that's why I'm advocating and fighting so much for teachers to be treated fairly in the compensation world, because we impact lives so much more than sometimes we are being given credit for. But it's amazing to see, and I continue to see. I've eaten in restaurants, for instance, that are owned now by students that I taught. And so such an amazing thing. And then if I go on to my time as principal, for instance, I have people who were teachers under my leadership as principal, who were students under my leadership as principal, who are doing amazing things in the world of education, in the world of business. I know of folks who are very high-ranking officials in our United States military, for instance. Just extremely proud of the accomplishments of my folks that have served time under my leadership in one way or the other. I also have a colleague who is now a colleague during my time as a superintendent, who is now a superintendent in her own right. She was a previous guest on this show. So a lot of my proudest moments, at least initially, have been about the amazing accomplishments that I've seen people whose lives I've tried to touch in some way accomplish these amazing things. Education is such a rewarding profession in that you get to see the outcomes of people, hopefully, that you serve. On a personal note, and I guess professional note as well, I'm also proud of the fact that students under my leadership have achieved greater. And I believe that is because of the resource provisions and things that we try to put in place for leaders. In each of the 2 districts that I've served as superintendent, for instance, we have worked diligently to implement advanced teacher roles programs, which I'm a big proponent of, not just because of the fact that it provides stipends for teachers who assume leadership roles, although that's part of it, but I believe that people best learn how to be better from people who are doing the work that they're doing. And so advanced teacher roles speaks to and implements and talks about shop floor leadership. So the people that are providing leadership to other teachers are teachers themselves. And I think that's important as we move forward. The teacher that is coming to our schools all across this nation, most of them are not traditional teacher education majors. Most of them now are teachers that are coming to us from alternative licenses, seeking alternative licensure. And so as we're preparing those teachers to be master teachers in our classrooms, we're going to have to do it a little bit differently. And so I'm proud of the fact that for these 9 years that I've been superintendent, I've been a big proponent of advanced teacher role models. And now all of a sudden you're hearing a lot more people embrace that concept. And I'm okay with that because it's about improving teacher and ultimately student outcomes. I'm also individually proud of the fact that I've been able to be a part of an amazing school construction and completion of the new Ahoskie Elementary School here in Hertford County, North Carolina. When I arrived here 6.5 years ago, back in 2015, I was approached by a young lady in a grocery store who asked me, was I going to be the superintendent that is going to finally get a new Ahoskie school for our students? And so, as I am moving on to my next journey, I'm proud to say that we have just completed our first year of instruction in that new building, and we have just completed construction on the auditorium that will serve our community. Both of them will serve our community for many, many years to come. It is a facility that I'm extremely proud of, and I'm proud that we were able to get that done collectively with help from our Board of Education, of course, and county commissioners, as well as many other legislators, and through the help of the Department of Public Instruction in North Carolina, to assume a $15 million grant to aid in the construction of that school. And so that, of course, is an accomplishment that I'm extremely proud of, and looking forward to seeing the results of that work that we put in to make sure that school is state of the art. It's an amazing, amazing facility that we're proud to be a part of. So here's one that I thought was absolutely amazing. Another question. The question was, when you first started in the classroom as a teacher, did you see yourself as an educational leader? And unlike some of my colleagues, I saw myself as a leader. I don't know that in fact, I do know that I did not think I would ever be a school superintendent. But because of my history, and also because of starting late into the education career, I hoped that after a successful career in teaching, that I would get into some form of leadership role. What I was not clear about is that I would end up being a school superintendent and spend a great deal of my career serving students at that level. Leadership in education can be a very rewarding career, not necessarily financially, although that can be the case as well. But it can be extremely rewarding because of the additional lives of young folks that you can touch. And so I always aspired to do that. And fortunately, we've been able to do that at a high level for a substantial amount of years. I was asked what my greatest challenge has been in Hertford County Public Schools and what was the solution that was provided for that. And the challenge in any school district when you first arrive, is just trying to figure out first and foremost how the district operates and what the nuances are of the district that are unique to it, that you can use to formulate a vision to move forward. And so while that challenge may not necessarily be the greatest, it's the most significant, because you got to get that right as a leader. And so when I arrived in Hertford County Public Schools 6.5 years ago, I saw some very good work already under place. But as many school districts are, sometimes that work is done in silos. Sometimes people in education don't necessarily share well with each other. And so once I got in and kind of found out what we did well, what we needed improvement on, and the internal things that we could do to make that better, I was blessed enough to be able to formulate a vision, and most importantly, a motto, a district motto that I think permeated throughout our district and created a situation where we now were able to move forward uniformly. That motto was called All In for Learning. Any school district, any organization, any company, whatever, you cannot move forward, particularly in 2022 and beyond, unless your organization is all inclusive. Every single person that you have in your employ as a leader, they have to be convinced that you are committed to their success and the success of the organization. People have to know that they're needed to be a part of the solution. People have to know that they matter. No matter who you are, no matter what your job title is, no matter what your daily responsibilities are, organizations need you to be successful. And if a leader is not speaking that language, if they're not delivering those accolades to people, and so that creates amazing work. You know, for instance, when the COVID pandemic first hit us, we had child nutrition workers that were preparing meals every day and feeding really our community. That was going on out of our schools, and they were masking up, and there were not vaccines at that time, and so forth. Those are things that leaders should never take for granted and never forget. We had transportation workers who were really unsure about the virus and what it would entail, who are out there risking their lives to make sure that students were transported and meals were transported and things of that nature. As leaders, we have to make sure that we take the time out to recognize everybody that's a part of the process. We need to make sure that we're having conversations to make sure that the needs are met of those folks, whether they're teaching, whether they're superintendent like myself, or anybody in between. We need to make sure as leaders that we create those all-inclusive environments, both in our expectations of their work, but also to make sure that everybody understands that they're a part of our solution. And so over my years, and because of the manufacturing influence that I've had, I understand that concept clearly, and I try to make sure that I employ that concept everywhere I go. So that means that you don't walk by people who work in your district and you don't engage in conversation. You make sure that everybody understands and know that they matter. Another question that I had, the COVID-19 pandemic, in the midst of the pandemic, we were charged to make progress. And what are some things that we can do to make progress post-pandemic? Well, first of all, I think we need to understand that while we have said the work that we're doing moving forward is about recovery, you know, we keep hearing that word. It's about recovery. We're going to recover this. We're going to recover that. Do I think that learning needs to be enhanced moving forward? Absolutely. But it should be enhanced anyway. Do I think that there was what people like to call learning loss? I prefer to say that learning was different during the pandemic. We've got young folks now who have learned survival skills during the pandemic because mama might have lost her job and they had to go out and get a job at a fast food place to help make ends meet in the household. Well, we all know as adults that those skills will pay dividends down the road as they're learning survival skills. So I think that learning was certainly different during the time of the pandemic. But post-pandemic, we have to take the lessons that we learned. We need to make sure that, first of all and foremost, that we don't ever go back to just sit and get as the way of distributing learning. We have learned now through the pandemic, forcing us to do so, that we can deliver virtual learning, that virtual learning is a tool. It is not a be-all, end-all, but it is a tool by which students can learn. And so we need to figure out how to incorporate that into our daily diet of delivering instruction. We also, I believe, as educators, need to continue to make sure that we are providing a multiplicity of options for our students. Moving forward, we hear the research that says there are jobs that people are going to be occupying that have not been created. So that means that education, instruction, curriculum has to continue to be developed and retooled and reimagined. And so when I hear educators, and I'm excited about the fact that we have young educators who are looking at alternatives to deliver education differently. We as leaders can't be closed-minded to say, well, that's not the way things used to be, or that's not a good approach because I haven't heard it before. Instead, as leaders, we have to be open-minded enough to say, that's a great concept. Let me hear more about that. Let me see how I can help you implement this new idea that you're looking at. If we think for 1 minute as educators that we're going to be able to plot ahead and provide the very best education that we can for this generation in 22 and beyond by having a closed box, closed-minded mentality, we're sadly mistaken. I see this time, this 2022 and beyond, as a premium time to invent and reinvent education and instruction as this amazing, futuristic, idealistic opportunity that's going to benefit our nation for many years to come. Shame on us if we don't learn that lesson and haven't learned that lesson through the pandemic rushing us into virtual education, rushing us into trying to find ways to deliver instruction without physically sitting in front of each other. Now, I still do believe that right now, face-to-face instruction is absolutely the best medium by which to deliver instruction. However, for some folks, some students, some teachers, some schools thrived better during virtual instruction. So there's nothing wrong with doing both. There's nothing wrong with having a blended approach to education. And I'm looking forward to the time where we can look back and say, although COVID forced us into this work, we've got it figured out now. Blended learning, instructional opportunities, flexibility in delivery of instruction. All of that makes an amazing future for the world of education, and I'm looking forward to it. I was asked about teacher shortages. What are some ideas we can use to address that, and how do we attract people to the profession? For years now, we have said, and we have had conversation quite frequently about investing in education, ION. And we've talked about that, and what we have normally meant when we've said that is we want to invest in buildings. We want to make sure that we've got technology in place. We want to make sure that book adoptions come about, and accountability is fairly measuring student performance and all of that stuff. And while all of that is certainly relevant and necessary and a part of what we need on a daily basis, I implore now, more so than ever, that we as a nation, as a world, in fact, we have to invest in educators, ORS, the people who do the work. When we as a nation are having to compete now for a certified classroom teacher with jobs who only require a high school diploma, and I'm not hating on jobs that require a high school diploma, But when we're having to compete salary-wise with those, something needs to happen differently. Educators in this nation and in this world are responsible for the creation of all other professions. Every other profession in the United States is a result of someone providing education for them to prepare for what they ultimately do. Yet, education as it stands is one of the lowest paid professions in our nation. Sometimes we hear the argument about the fact that teachers work 10 months a year. First of all, that's a misnomer. They are with children 10 months a year, but their work goes far beyond that. First of all, about 90% of the teachers that are entering the profession have some other obligation that they have to do school-wise to get licensed, fully licensed in the field of education. That requires time that is generally devoted to the summer, and it requires money. It requires additional investments in their education to make sure that they're prepared for your students. And so when we start talking about how to best retain people in the profession, absolutely, we have to treat them well. We have to provide them with supports, but we also have to invest in educators. And I'm not just talking about classroom teachers. I'm also talking about people that I call indirect instruction people, bus drivers, maintenance workers, transportation mechanics, child nutrition employees, teacher assistants, custodians. We have to invest in this profession called education if we expect the outcomes that we all need for the future of our profession. Lastly, I just want to say, moving forward as the founder and host of this show, that we're going to continue to work diligently to bring you content that helps us move forward as leaders and as people in general in this great country. Our country is going through a lot right now. There's an amazing amount of opportunity and worry all at the same time. We have to be smart enough and diligent enough to make sure that we continue to provide added value, be value added to those things that are important, like ensuring that our children have the best chance that they could have for success. We can't do that by putting our head in the sand. We have to continue to fight for what we know is right for children and those that serve children. I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the opportunity to lead in this great country. And I'm excited about the opportunity to continue to bring the very best content that I can find to this show about leadership in general, not just educational leadership, but leadership in general. I thank you for your continued support of this show and all that we do. My guest next week on The Wright Experience, that show will be a week from today. Next week will be Dr. Mary L. Young. Dr. Mary L. Young is a former superintendent, career educator in the field. She's worked in the states of South Carolina, Maryland, and North Carolina. She's an amazing educational leader. She also will be the first repeat guest on my show here at The Wright Experience. And she most recently, has written a brand new book that we're going to talk about next week. The book is, as you can see here, just recently released, and we're excited to talk to her about her book, as well as get some leadership tips and advice. So that podcast will be next week, June 23rd, 2022 at 7:00 p.m. Until then, I want to thank you once again for your unwavering support of this show and all that we do. Thank you and good evening from the Wright Experience.